Emma came to the office on Monday and found out that someone had deleted an important report from her computer. She knew that in the company there were 3 people who would be happy if she lost her job. Emma loved reading detective novels and even wanted to become a private detective when she was younger. That's why she knew she had to question the suspects. Laura, Emma's colleague, said, "I've just arrived. Phew, the weather is awful. Such a downpour. Why are you asking me?" Thomas, the accountant, answered,
"I was out getting coffee and I just returned."
And Eliza, a new employee, said,
"I had a meeting with a client in a cafe. I've just come back to the office."
Who might have anything to do with Emma's report? Eliza. Pay attention to the suspect's feet. Thomas's and Laura's shoes are wet. They got caught in the rain, but Eliza's high heels are perfectly dry. She must have lied about going out to meet with a client. Emma found this strange. To confirm her suspicions, she decided to watch Eliza, but the very next day, the girl disappeared, along with some very important documents. Emma's boss asked her to help him return the documents. He didn't want to inform the police yet. Despite all, Emma was happy. She could fulfill her dream of becoming a detective. Eliza's computer was protected with a password. After an hour of failed attempts, Emma finally noticed a piece of paper on the floor under Eliza's desk. She picked it up.
"I'm made up of 2 words joined together. I'm a dish. My first half is a famous genre. My second part is a grain. What am I?"
The answer to this riddle might be the password, but what is it? Popcorn. Emma managed to start the computer, and soon enough, she found a map with some coordinates. Time for some action. The map led her to a modern building. It was a gym. She entered and asked the receptionist about Eliza, but the woman refused to tell her anything unless she brought a guest pass. Once inside, Emma decided to explore the place. At one point, she entered the showers for ladies. She immediately realized something was off. But what exactly? See that man reflected in the window? Who is he, and what is he doing here? Emma was about to run out of the showers when everything went black. When she woke up sometime later, she realized she was in a small room without windows. There was a door with a combination lock. In her hand, she was clutching a note. Spelled forward were those rodents that terrify you. But what you need is spelled backward. You can't touch it, but you can see it at night. What is the password? The rodents the note speaks about are rats. Then the word Emma needs is star. The girl managed to open the door. She rushed out of the room but stopped abruptly. She saw a large armchair. A man was sitting in it. It was the man from the showers at the gym.
"Here you are,"
he exclaimed cheerfully.
"I admit that at first I wanted to bring your boss down, but I've changed my mind. I want to play now. If you crack all my riddles, I'll give you the documents and let you go." Emma had nothing to do but agree. The man said, "See, I have a room filled with gold. Once, 3 thieves sneaked into that room, but only 2 of them walked out. After they left, the room was empty. So, where was the 3rd thief?" The 3rd criminal was in a wheelchair. He didn't walk. He rolled out of the room. "Good job,"
the man shouted and pressed some buttons on the armrest of his chair. Emma screamed as she felt herself falling through the floor. It was pitch dark in the basement. Suddenly, a torch on the wall lit up. Emma saw 3 doors. Behind the first door, there was a dense jungle full of dangerous creatures. Behind the second door, there was a gigantic fire-breathing dinosaur whose breath could burn through any kind of material. And behind the third door, there was a lake filled with ice water. The water was so cold it needed just a few seconds to freeze literally anything. Which door should Emma choose? She should walk through the second door. Even if dinosaurs were still around, they wouldn't be able to breathe fire. It was the correct decision. The dino turned out to be a skillfully made statue. But there was just one door leading out of the room, and it was locked too. Ah! Emma was starting to get impatient. Luckily, there was another note with a hint. There were drawings on it: a banana, a sunflower, a rainbow, and an apple. Emma thought for a while, then pressed 4 numbers on the panel near the door. The code was correct, and the door opened. What numbers did the girl press? One, 3, 7, 1. Each digit corresponds to the number of colors of the objects in the picture. Emma saw a long corridor. She'd been walking for a while when she realized that the corridor was about to split into 3 passageways. They were signed West, East, South. She also saw this inscription on the wall. Which corridor should she choose? Emma tilted her head and looked at the inscription upside down. This way, it read, South. That's where she needed to go. Soon, the girl saw 3 doors on her way. On the floor, there were 3 keys that could open these 3 doors. What is the biggest number of attempts she will need to figure out the key for each door? Six. 3 attempts for the first key and all 3 doors. 2 attempts for the second key and the remaining 2 doors. And 1 attempt for the third key and the last door. Emma decided to go through the left door. And guess what? She ended up in the room with the armchair again. The man was there too. He asked her, "Today is Friday. You need to do something 72 days later. What day of the week will it be?" Emma understood it really fast. It would be Sunday. Look, 72 days equals 10 weeks plus 2 days. And 2 days from Friday, that's Sunday. The man was getting irritated. "Well, and how good are you at math? Look at this sequence. What are the next 2 numbers?" The next 2 numbers should be 20 and 28. There are 2 groups of numbers in this sequence: 11, 14, and 17, and 19, 22, and 25. In both of them, each next number is 3 more than the previous one. It means that in the first group, the next number is 20, and in the second group, 28. Then, the man offered Emma a bet. He said he would put 1 red and 1 blue marble in a box. If the girl picked the blue marble, he would let her go. But if she got the red marble, she would have to stay and help him around the house for a year. Emma knew that the man was going to cheat, because why would he take a risk like that? He would probably put 2 red marbles instead of 1 red and 1 blue. But how can she prove it? After thinking for a while, she managed to win the bet. How did she do it? Emma picked a marble and quickly put it in her mouth without showing it to the man. The marble that remained in the box was red. According to the rules, it meant that the marble Emma had chosen was blue. The man didn't want to admit that he had tried to cheat. "Okay, I'm not going to go back on my word, but here's the last riddle. If you crack it, you're free to go. How can you turn 6 into an odd number?" Emma didn't need to think much. She removed the letter S, which left IX. That's the number 9 in Roman numerals, and this number is odd. The man could do nothing. He gave Emma the documents and let her go. The girl was happy. Do you think she should pursue the career of a detective? Nancy and Mike were going to the Carnival of Riddles, which was scheduled to be in their town during the weekend. It was a very popular carnival that was traveling the country, and everybody was so excited. So, when they arrived, they saw a very long line, and it seemed like they had to wait for many hours to be able to get in. But the ticket salesman left his booth and walked in front of the crowd. He said that he was going to give a riddle to everyone. Since this was the Carnival of Riddles, those who could answer correctly would be able to get inside earlier than others. The riddle was this: I am the beginning of eternity. I am the end of time and space. I am the start of every end. I am the end of every place. What am I? The answer is the letter E. Nancy and Mike were so happy that they knew the answer and didn't have to wait to get in. But even though they were able to move in front of the line, they still had to pay for the tickets. But they were so expensive. The salesman offered them another riddle. If they could answer it, he would give them a 50% discount. I have an X number of candy apples. If I count them by threes, the remainder is 2. If I count them by fives, the remainder is 3. If I count them by sevens, the remainder is 2. How many candy apples do I have? Mike was kind of a genius, so he knew the answer immediately. Do you? The answer is 23. Nancy and Mike were glad to have been able to save some cash to buy snacks. Nancy wanted to get something sweet for herself and her brother, so they went to the candy booth. They had 3 options to choose from. They could either buy cotton candy, candy cane, or a candy apple. Which one should they pick? Take a closer look at the cotton candy. There's a teeny tiny spider stuck inside. Yikes! And did you notice that little apple worm inside the candy apple? That's never good. So, they should buy the candy cane. Before leaving the candy booth, Mike wanted to get a gumball too. However, when he inserted his coin into the gumball vending machine, he realized that something was strange. Hey! Do you see it too? Look inside the machine carefully. Not everything in there is a gumball. This and that are eggs. How weird is that? Hey! After eating their candy, they came upon a tent with a sign that said, "Enter if you want to see real magic." They were intrigued, so they decided to walk in. There were 3 different magicians. The first was holding cards in his hands. Then he made them disappear. The second one also had cards, but he was making them levitate. And the third one put a pen through a card, but the card was unharmed after. Only one of them was capable of real magic, and the others were just doing tricks. Can you tell who? Take a closer look at the first magician's sleeves. You can see a corner of the card. He didn't make them disappear, he just hid them. The second magician's cards are attached to a clear thread. You can notice it from where the sunlight hits. So the third one is the real deal. Mike was a fan of all things scary, so he convinced his sister to take the haunted house ride. As their cart moved inside the dark tunnel, they encountered 3 different monsters along the way. A zombie, a ghost, and a mummy. Little did they know that one of them was a real monster. Can you tell which one? Take a look at the zombie. Its makeup is kind of melting, which means that it must be an actor. As for the mummy, look at his ankle. His skin slightly shows under all that mummy gauze. So he must be a dressed-up actor as well. That makes the ghost the real monster. So creepy. Nancy didn't enjoy the haunted house ride. She wanted her next ride to be something relaxing, so she chose the carousel. Mike decided to skip this one to explore the carnival more. They agreed to meet later. When Nancy arrived at the carousel, she saw that all the horse seats were taken, except 3. But only one of them looked safe to sit on. Which one is that? The second horse mount is cracked. It's not wise to pick that one. And the third horse is slowly moving back and forth even though the carousel is not rotating yet. Its screws must be loose or something. So she should choose the first one. It's the cutest one anyway. As Nancy was enjoying the carousel, Mike decided to check out the Hall of Mirrors. The information board said that only one person was allowed inside. Mike entered and had so much fun enjoying all the funny reflections of himself on the weird mirrors. But then, suddenly, he screamed with fear. Why is that? Take a closer look at the mirror reflections. One of them doesn't belong to Mike, so he is apparently not the only one inside, even though the sign said he would be. Mike was so scared of the unexpected reflection. He ran out of the Hall of Mirrors immediately, but as he did, he tripped on a stone and twisted his ankle. So he decided to visit the first aid tent to get some ice. When he walked in, he saw that the nurse was in panic and in no condition to help him out because there were 3 pregnant women sitting in front of her, all claiming they were going to give birth now. However, Mike noticed that one of them was lying and faking her pregnancy. Can you tell who? Girl number 3 is clearly the liar. Take a look at the ultrasound picture in her hand. It has the first girl's name on it. She must have stolen it from her, so she's only pretending to be pregnant. Once the real pregnant ladies left for the hospital, Mike was able to get some ice for his ankle and went to meet his sister. At that moment, they heard an announcement coming from the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, gather up to see the strongest man alive. Don't believe me? I'm not lying. Here he comes. See him with your own eyes. Nancy and Mike wanted to see who this man was, so they joined the crowd. A muscular-looking man entered the stage. He said,
I will prove to you how strong I am by breaking this thing with my bare hands. But first, you have to guess what it is. Here is my riddle to you. There was a greenhouse. Inside the greenhouse, there was a white house. Inside the white house, there was a red house. Inside the red house, there were lots of little ones. Nancy knew the answer, so she yelled it out. Can you guess? It's a watermelon, and the strongman was able to break it with his bare hands indeed. So cool! Nancy and Mike were tired, so they decided to call it a day and go home. But before that, they wanted to get a souvenir from the carnival. They picked a beautiful fridge magnet. When they paid for it, the gift shop salesman put 3 cups upside down on the table and placed their money under one of them. He said he would give their money back and the magnet for free if they could guess which cup had their money after he performed his trick. Watch carefully. Nancy knew where the money was immediately. How about you? It's here. You thought it was under this one, right? Watch it in slow motion again. Do you see the salesman putting the money under that one with a quick hand movement? Nancy noticed that. What a fun day.
Psst. Share in the comments how many of these riddles you will answer correctly. Samantha and Jack got stranded on a tiny uninhabited island. They had no radio or cell phones, so they couldn't inform rescuers about their dire situation. There were no trees on the island, so they couldn't make a smoke signal, and all around them was just sand and rocks. Suddenly, Samantha noticed a plane circling the sky in search of them. Unfortunately, it was flying too high, and the pilot couldn't see them. That's when she got a bright idea. Soon after, the plane picked them up. What was Samantha's idea? to use rocks to spell out SOS on the sand. Detective Cooper needed to find out the very last piece of missing information in a case he had been dealing with lately. He finally got to the office where secret documents were hidden. To open the door, he needs to choose the right button. There are 3 of them: a yellow one, a green one, and a blue one. Which one should the detective choose? The detective needs to choose the blue button. It's pretty worn out, so it must have been used many times. Plus, there's a small note with a warning. The green button is for an emergency, and the yellow one shuts all the doors and turns off the lights in the whole building. Wow, I want one of those. One day, Amanda thought her boyfriend Eric had a secret from her. To find out what it was, she needed access to his laptop. She had no idea what the password was, but luckily, there was a post-it note right on his desk. However, she needed to decipher the pass. Apple, man, dawn. Can you crack this code? Right, it's Amanda. Her name is the code. By the way, the secret he was hiding was the birthday present Eric had been choosing for her. Well, that's what you get for snooping. Jack and Jim agreed to say yes all day long to all questions. If one of them doesn't say yes to a question, he automatically loses and must give $100 to his friend. Jim realized there was one question nobody could say yes to. What question was it? Jim realized nobody could say yes to the "Are you asleep?" question. Jim waited until Jack took a nap and recorded a video in which Jack replied with a snoring but not yes to Jim's question. Seems like a cheap shot. Jason is a shop assistant in a department store. At the moment, there are 3 people in a fitting room he's assisting. Jessica, the girl, is wearing a green dress. Sean, a man wearing a leather jacket and skinny jeans. And Alex, the man who's currently taking a larger pair of jeans that Jason brought him. One of the clients is an alien. Jason has to figure out who it is. It's Alex. Take a closer look at his feet. Only a reptile or an alien could have such feet. Julian needed to find a very important document he'd lost. He looked through all the papers and finally found something that looked like the document he actually needed. However, a couple of seconds later, he realized there were 4 copies of this document looking precisely the same, or not. Can you guess which one is the real document? It's the one in the upper left corner. It has a stamp and a signature, and it says Agreement. The one next to it looks similar, but it has a spelling mistake. It says Agreedment. The rest of the copies lack either a stamp or a signature. Mr. and Mrs. Jones are fond of art and love collecting rare and expensive pieces. Once they had to go on a business trip, and when they came back home, they realized something precious was missing. They instantly called the police, but the officers were confused because no painting was taken. Why were Mr. and Mrs. Jones worried then? A frame was missing. In fact, it cost much more than many art pieces, as it was encrusted with gems. Mary was walking in the woods and suddenly saw a really fancy castle. It was getting late, and she thought she might ask for a stay there overnight. It was a wicked troll's castle, and he really didn't like intruders. Mary was captured and locked in a dark room with 2 guards. Still, the troll gave her a chance to break free. There are 2 doors in the room. One door leads to freedom, and the other is locked. The guards know which door will set Mary free. One of the guards always tells the truth, while the other always lies, and Mary doesn't know who it is. She can ask just one question to one guard only. What question should she ask? If Mary says, "If I ask your colleague to show me the way to freedom, what door will it be?" No matter what the guard replies, they will point at the locked door. The one that lies will show the wrong door, and the one that doesn't lie will show the wrong door too, since it would be chosen by the one who lies. This way, Mary knows the wrong door, and she needs to select the other one. One man went to his friend's party and told his wife he'd be back before sunrise. He shaved and left home. He returned, as promised, before sunrise, but he was sporting a long, thick beard. How come? The man and his wife live in a place with polar nights that last for several months. Anthony, the financial director of a big company, finally persuaded new partners to sign a super important agreement. He then put this document into a folder and left it on the table in his office. When he arrived at work the following day, the folder was gone. Anthony gathered all the employees in the office at the time and questioned them. The cleaning lady said she had been busy washing the floor and hadn't paid attention to anything around. The designer explained that he hadn't left his working place even once. What's more, being an artist, he didn't have any interest in agreement documents. The accountant admitted that he had entered Anthony's office to have some documents signed, but once he noticed there was no one inside, he immediately left. Who took the folder with the agreement? It was the designer. Anthony never mentioned which folder was gone. How would he know that the missing folder had an agreement inside? Eric wears either only black or only white socks. One morning, he was in a hurry to get ready for an important meeting. Suddenly, the power goes out. The guy has 10 white and 10 black socks in his drawer, but all of them are mixed. He doesn't want to look silly at work wearing different socks. If it's completely dark in the room and Eric can't see anything, how many socks should he pull out of the drawer to get himself 2 matching ones? Three socks are more than enough. In a set of 3 socks, he's bound to have 2 of the same color. Jane told her boss someone had taken the documents she had prepared for the meeting. She added that she had noticed someone come in wearing a smart suit, gloves, and a black mask. This person also had 3 rings on their fingers. The boss didn't believe her. Why? She said the person was wearing gloves. Then how did she see 3 rings on their fingers? Jane must have simply forgotten to print those documents out. On a nice warm day, Vivian, who lived in a town on the seashore, decided to go for a hike alone. But after hours of trekking, she ended up in a section of the forest she wasn't familiar with. Before her, there were 3 paths. One path had bare footprints leading away. Another had human footprints. And the third one was right by the river. Which one should Vivian take to find her way? The river path. Since she lives in a coastal town, the river mouth most likely ends up in the sea. That way, she could figure out where she was. So now it's your turn. Count 'em up. How many correct answers do you have?
There was an incident in a secret laboratory. One of the scientists released a substance that turned people into vampires. Detective Reed arrived at the scene to interview 3 witnesses. The first scientist, Michael, said, "I stopped by the lab this morning to pick up some notes. The machines were working just fine, and I didn't see anyone. I took the papers and left." The second scientist, Lindsay, said, "I closed the lab at night. One of the PCs was faulty, but I was very tired and decided to leave it till the morning. Unfortunately, I overslept." And the third scientist, Jennifer, said, "I got up early and went to the lab to check the devices. No one seems to have entered the room. I fixed one of the computers and left." Which one of them was lying? Michael is lying. One of the computers was actually faulty, and Jennifer spent the whole morning fixing it. If Michael had walked into the lab, he would have known about it, or Jennifer would have noticed him. So he must have entered the lab after the others had already left. But why would someone release such a dangerous substance? Michael didn't want to confess, so Detective Reed decided to investigate the crime scene to find out who was behind this. Take a look at this picture. Is there anything suspicious? It looks like Michael dropped an ID card. And look, it doesn't belong to him. The name on the card is George Wilson. Let's ask him about the incident. Detective Reed went to Mr. Wilson's office to ask him about the incident.
"Oh yeah, I gave my pass to Michael," Mr. Wilson said. "But that's only because I had left something in the lab. My glasses. I didn't have time, so I asked Michael to pick them up."
Well, that's not a very clever excuse, but how can you prove the man is lying? There's an open glasses case on the table, and the glasses are inside. But Mr. Wilson, didn't you say that you left them in the lab?
"Oh, did I say my glasses? Sorry, I meant my papers. I made this mistake because I asked my secretary Shirley to look for my glasses yesterday."
Find something to prove Mr. Wilson is lying. There's a calendar on Shirley's desk. Yesterday was her day off. It's marked red. Mr. Wilson is lying. Mr. Wilson was arrested, but people have already begun to turn into vampires. Can you guess who's actually a vampire? The woman on the right. She's putting on her makeup, but do you see? She isn't reflected in the mirror. Meanwhile, those who haven't turned into vampires gather everything they might need to survive. Which of these people is more likely to stay alive? All these supplies won't protect the guy on the right from vampires. As for the girl on the left, she's stocked up on what she can to defeat the vampires. She has a higher chance of survival. Let's check out the subway. There are two women here. Which of them is not pregnant? The girl on the left is not pregnant. Look, her belly is of a very strange shape. That's because she has hidden her survival supplies under her clothes. Vampires decided to throw a party. Who among those present is actually an undercover human? The guy on the left is a human. He's wearing makeup and false teeth. Nikki is also trying to survive. She packs her things and decided to move to a neighboring town. But suddenly, a vampire charged at her car. He damages the vehicle and takes away some supplies. Fortunately, he doesn't manage to bite Nikki. She escapes. Nikki has to stay home. The next day, a young man knocks on her door and asks for help. Is it okay to let him in? Nope. He has the same scar on his cheek like the vampire from the day before. Nikki continues to hide at home. One day, some girl starts knocking on her back door. Please help! A pack of vampires is chasing me! Nikki opens the door. The girl is out of breath, but she manages to say, They're almost here. Can I come in? Is it safe to let her in? No! This girl is a vampire. Anyone in this situation would immediately run inside the house, but vampires can't come in without an invitation. Nikki was checking her house and suddenly noticed that there was someone in the attic. She approached the shadows. It was a father and daughter. Please don't kick us out. Sorry, we snuck in without permission. We've been trying to hide from the vampires. The father said, Is it safe to let them stay? Yes, firstly, they're sitting in the sun, but their skin seems to be okay. Secondly, they managed to enter the house without an invitation. That means they're humans. Nikki let them stay. Let's take a little break. Time for some quick riddles. Think fast. A vampire lived in a one-story black cottage. He had a black cat, a black fish, a black computer, a black armchair, a black desk, and a black phone. Everything was black. What color was the staircase? There was no staircase in that house because it was a one-story cottage. 3 vampires are walking fast. The first vampire says, "2 other vampires are walking behind me." The second one says,
One vampire is walking behind me, and one is walking in front of me.
and the third one says, "2 vampires are walking in front of me, and 2 are walking behind me." How is that possible? These vampires are walking in circles. Humans, vampires, and werewolves gathered in one mansion. There are as many werewolves as there are vampires. There are as many vampires as there are humans. How many creatures are there if 3 of them are werewolves? There are 9 creatures in the mansion, 3 werewolves, 3 vampires, and 3 humans. Now let's go back to Nikki and her adventures. Nikki, Peter, and his daughter Becky decided to go to another town together. It takes 2 days to get there. They drove all day until night fell. Now they have 3 options. First, they can continue driving until the morning, despite the fact that they may meet a lot of vampires along the way. Second, they can spend the night in the nearest cave with bats. And third, they can sleep in the car. Which option would be the safest for them? Sleeping in the car is a bad idea. Vampires can sneak up on them in the middle of the night. A night in a cave is also a bad option. Vampires can hide among these bats. The safest option is to keep driving. Although they'll probably meet vampires, they have a chance to survive if they drive faster. They drove really fast and managed to reach the city by the morning. But when they got out of the car, they discovered they were surrounded by vampires. To escape, they need to choose one of 3 roads. On the first road, there's a pack of vampires. They're coming straight at the guys. There are wild hogs on the second road. The third road leads through a dark alley with hundreds of bats. Which of these 3 ways is the safest? The second way is the best option because the sun illuminates it, so vampires can't follow Nikki and her new friends. Plus, these dogs don't look too unfriendly. The guys reach 3 stores. Now they need to decide which of the stores is safe to enter. Nikki, Peter, and Becky look through the windows to see what's inside. The first store is empty, but it seems to be full of traps. The second store is full of survivors, but they look dangerous. And the third store seems empty as well, but it's completely dark there, and you can't see anything except for dozens of bats. Where should Nikki lead her friends? The first store is the safest. If Nikki, Peter, and Becky notice these traps, then the chances are high they'll be able to avoid them. It's worth a try. There's a man in the city who's trying to survive by hiding among vampires. Nikki spent a week photographing vampires to figure out who he was. Will you be able to see who is actually human in these photos? You can see this man has all 4 photos. In one of the photos, he's eating garlic bread, and in this one, his leg is exposed to the sun. He's only pretending to be a vampire. Nikki and the others decided to invite this man to join their group. The man was delighted and said that his name was Douglas. He was a journalist looking for safe places for people. He suggested creating a password that only humans could figure out. They came up with this one: HAWUH. Can you guess why? If you look at the reflection of this word in the mirror, you will see Huan, or Huwan. Flip the letter W and you get the word human. But only those who get reflected in the mirror will be able to solve this puzzle. Nikki and her friends settle down in this town. Can you guess which of these houses belongs to Nikki, in which Peter and Becky live, and in which Douglas has chosen? House number 1 belongs to Peter and Becky. There are 2 bicycles next to it. House number 2 belongs to the journalist. Do you see his equipment? And the remaining house, house number 3, belongs to Nikki.